Hi everyone. So I know that, I'm just checking my placement to see on the screen. I know that some of you are going to find the subject of this video a little strange, considering the fact that in a few days we're going to have the first of two eclipses. We are in what is popularly known as eclipse season. From my perspective, I always say the week before and after an eclipse, although as those of you who watch my videos know, I also, when it comes to a solar eclipse like the one we're going to have on Saturday on the 14th, I look to 2 months after that eclipse as well, so December 14th. But I'm going to talk more about the eclipse 2 videos from now. And I usually do my new moon videos after a new moon, but this time at least what I am planning to do is I'm planning to do a video every, so there's this video today, there's another video tomorrow, and then the solar eclipse video day after tomorrow. I feel comfortable with this. I think we know with everything that we're seeing going on, widely, openly, even politically, socially, particularly politically, that's the right word. We know just how terrifying and eclipsy things seem, and confusing in certain respects, and certain parts of the world are affected in such a grievous manner at this point in time. But coming back to this, I was thinking about the different things that I wanted to convey at this point in time, and we're kind of at a time when planets are changing signs, which they do. But Venus just came into Virgo yesterday. Mars is in a few days' time, prior to the eclipse, in a couple of days' time, actually going to move into Scorpio. I thought, let me, what really is it? As I was thinking about the sequence of information I want to give to you, I thought I need to talk about the Jupiter retrograde. And this will make more sense to you tomorrow, when I do the video tomorrow. And then we'll get to the eclipse video. So bear with me. Eclipse season, as far as I'm concerned, started on Saturday, which would have been 1 week before the 14th. So let's say the 7th of October. And the final eclipse is on the 28th. So by November 4th, the sort of main center of this eclipse activity will be done behind us. And I am not gonna, it's so attractive, I can feel myself getting drawn into talking about the eclipses, and we'll leave that for later. When Jupiter enters a sign, and because when I look at charts, I use the whole sign system, WHOLE, Jupiter enters a sign and a house at the same time for me. I'm not going to get into an argument or discussion. I don't feel so militantly or passionately as certain other astrologers do about my way and my way of cutting charts being absolutely the only way or the right way. I kind of feel like if you're going to read 1,000 charts, as I've said before on this channel, if you read 1,000 charts with the system you use, you will make sense of the data that is being, and the evidence that is being brought forth to you. So I'm constantly searching, and I'm constantly wondering, should I go sidereal? Should I remain tropical? Is it whole signs? Is it equal houses? What it's so right now I continue to stick with what in my interpretation works for me. And so when Jupiter enters a sign, and Jupiter entered the sign of Taurus on May 16th, 2023. And Jupiter typically spends 12 to 13 months in a sign. And when Jupiter enters a sign, people who've had readings with me will know that what I like to say about Jupiter is very simple. It ends a 12, 13-year cycle. It starts a 12, 13-year cycle. The endings are more significant than the beginnings. This I find to be really quite true, because conventional day-to-day astrology will talk about a Jupiter transit as if you're going to get millions of dollars, or a massive promotion, or a massive this or a massive that. And I find that Jupiter's way of giving luck and blessings is not Venus's way of giving luck and blessings. Venus tends to be the one that gifts things. In Jupiter's case, I find that Jupiter has a sense of how to align you with your path, and Jupiter is more likely to try and give you a lucky break, or to create, if you're on the right path, then when Jupiter comes back around to the same part of the chart every 12, 13 years, it seeks to elevate it and get you even closer to what your true path is. So it creates endings and beginnings related to that. If you are not quite on the wrong path, but you know that your sense or your calling is in another direction, Jupiter could very well come in and You might be expecting that you're going to get a massive promotion, you're going to become a VP or an executive, and Jupiter could come and lay you off to align you to what that path needs to be. It's up to you. With Jupiter and Saturn, I always say you have to work with and meet these planets halfway. You are working with these energies, you know, the so-called personal planets. The sun, the moon, I know they're not planets, but just bear with me. Sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars are representations of our own energy. And when it comes to Jupiter, Saturn, we can really start to feel sort of the finger of God, or in Saturn's case, sometimes the open palm, the fist, the cane of God. And by the time you get to Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and even Chiron to some extent, although with Chiron there's a little bit more agency, you're really talking about the kind of change that you have much less control over, the farther away you get. With Pluto, it really feels like you have to give up all resistance and sense of participation altogether often. You just have to get with the program. So with Jupiter, wherever Jupiter goes, ending a 12-13 year cycle, starting a 12-13 year cycle. So one question you could ask is, where's Taurus in your chart? What house does it occupy? What does that house stand for? And are you going through a period since May 16th, 2023, where you are revising, where you are ending and starting a new 12-13 year cycle, and that chart is getting a rejuvenation. The endings, as I said, are more important than the beginnings. One astrologer referred to a Jupiter transit as an auspicious new beginning. But I find that the emphasis is on this idea of a new beginning. It's someone else I once spoke to about this phenomenon described it as, you know, Jupiter comes into a room, decides which couch needs to be replaced, removes the couch, creates the blank space while the transit is occurring. Now, if you're really lucky, Jupiter may bring in a new couch and replace that couch. But what Jupiter is guaranteed to do is at least give you a chance to create the blank space so that you can start to move towards bringing the right couch in. And another example I give is Jupiter sort of is the start of a river. It's the first trickle from a glacier that is then going to become a river. Now, sometimes the new beginning occurs while Jupiter is going to, sometimes it occurs even a couple, 2-3 years. It's a cycle. And you'll know what I mean. Once you start to attune to this, I think you'll catch on to it. And as I said, if you're on the right path, it is seeking to escalate you. Enough lessons learned over the past 12-13 years. We're closing that cycle. We're moving you to the next spiral, if you think that you're kind of spiraling up. And if you're not quite on the right path, and you'll know, Jupiter may come in and try and create a new beginning for you. And you're going to have to then determine, well, is this new beginning convenient or not? And what does this mean in terms of my security? And am I going to have the courage to, you know, blah, blah. You've got to figure out whether you're going to, Jupiter will create the change. You're going to need to figure out whether you're going to take the leap based on your situation and what you're dealing with, or whether you're not. But irrespective, there's a start of a new 12-13 year cycle, whether you're on the right path or the wrong path, or not quite the right path. During the course of the 12-13 months that Jupiter is in a certain part of the chart, Jupiter goes direct, retrograde, and then direct. And very often what this feels like is Jupiter goes direct, retrograde, direct again, and then finishes the cycle. And it's no different this time around. So Jupiter comes in on May 16th. Here's an important date. Jupiter enters its shadow degrees at around 5.5 degrees of Taurus on June the 11th. On September the 4th, at about 15.5 degrees of Taurus, it retrogrades. On December 31st, it reaches back to 5.5 degrees of Taurus and it goes direct. On March 23rd, 2024, it is back at 15.5 degrees and it clears its shadow periods, its shadow degrees. The shadow degrees are the degrees in Taurus that Jupiter will transit 3 times: direct, retrograde, direct. So there's those first 4 or 5 degrees that it's not going to go over again, and it's the last 14.5 degrees of Taurus that it's not going to go over again. Within that last 14.5 degrees is an important conjunction that Jupiter is going to make on September. What is going on here? Sorry, something here needs to be shifted and moved around. Forgive me. Give me a second. I'm not quite sure why. Goodness. Sorry about that. On April 23rd, thank you for bearing with me. On April 23rd, a month after Jupiter clears its shadow degrees, Jupiter will conjunct Uranus in Taurus. That's the other heavy hitter that's sitting in Taurus. So Jupiter comes into Taurus May 16th. June 11th, it enters its shadow degrees at 5.5 degrees. September 4th, it goes retrograde at 15.5 degrees of Taurus. December 31st, goes direct again at 5.5 degrees. March 23rd of 2024, clears the shadow degrees. April 23rd, meets up with Uranus. May 25th, out of Taurus into Gemini to spend 12 to 13 months there. So, if you have Jupiter direct in your birth chart, what this can feel like is, well, what is really going on is between, there's two scenarios that I see. Between June, actually, it's really the same scenario. June 11th to September 4th, Jupiter may have, quite frankly, honestly, May 16th onwards, but let's just go with June 11th when it was in those degrees, because this is what is relevant. This is what I want you to think about is, what new beginning has Jupiter been trying to create for you in the sign of Taurus between June 11th and September 4th? It's possible that while Jupiter is retrograde between September 4th and December 31st, based on that first wave, that first push, you need to now, while Jupiter is retrograde, move things around and sort out things that are now past things, given the direction that Jupiter is trying to get you to go in. And after December the 31st till March 23rd, you're going to be going over the same degrees that you did March 23rd, 2024, that you did from June 11th, 2023 to September 4th, 2023. Then, as I said, you conjunct Uranus April 23, Jupiter does, and then out by May 25th, 24. Okay? So March 23rd, April 23rd, the conjunction, May 25th, the departure. All happening around, when the sun changes signs, interestingly enough, but irrespective. So the thing to ponder is, what new beginning in the Taurus part of your chart was Jupiter trying to create through September the 4th? What were the activities between June 11th and September 4th? Those are the two questions. Between September 4th and December 31st, and we're now April the 10th, so we've had about a month and some of this. Does it feel like, because I would imagine that it might, you are having to go back? It's that first wave doesn't mean that the beginning has been created, doesn't mean that the ending has been created necessarily. Do you now, after that first push while Jupiter is retrograde, need to, now that you know where things are headed, do you need to rearrange your life, end things, close things? If you think about it as a departure, once you know where how about this? Let's think about it as a relocation for a job change. Let's say within the same company or with a different company, you got a job and you need to move from Portland to San Antonio. It could be that between May and September, the offer came through, you know what needs to be done, what that means. It may be a permanent move. It could be that between September and December 31st, you need to figure out what you're doing with your stuff, what stays, what goes. If you're moving to a new company, you hand in your resignation. You take care of stuff to facilitate the final push of this new beginning that then starts up again. The final push starts from December 31st to May the 25th. December 31st to March the 23rd, you are revisiting territory you revisited between June 11th of 23 to September 4th of 23. So December 31st of 23 to March 23rd of 24, you revisit the same degrees and the same kind of, interestingly, the similar topics, similar space. And then after the 23rd, as I said, April the 24th becomes an important date, and then by May the 25th, Jupiter is done, creating this ending and new beginning. So the Jupiter retrograde period we're in, it's important because the second half of this year is pregnant with so much change. And we're talking about heading into the eclipse season. And the week before and after August 28th, when Mercury was getting retrograde, was in direct conversation, as was the lunation at that time, the Pisces full moon, if I recall correctly, in direct conversation with the October 28th eclipse, the Mercury retrograde, the fact that Mercury and Mars are going to conjunct one day after the October 28th eclipse, and they were not able to do so when Mercury went retrograde. The relationship between the Venus and the Mercury retrogrades to this change. The fact that even while these planets were retrograde, we had these trines between the planets transiting Leo and the North Node in Aries. Mercury made this trine, the Sun made this trine, Venus made this trine twice. The new moon in Leo in the middle of August made this trine. The new moon in Virgo in the middle of September. We're still in this new moon cycle, trine Uranus. So there have been manifestations and forward movement and forward pushing and where do you want to go and what does this look like? And there have been these conversations between all these transits that have been occurring. They are affecting and occurring in different parts of the chart, but they are in conversation with each other. When you look at a chart, the story that is told and is going on is a composite of what the planets are doing and how they are relating to each other and what changes they're trying to create. The challenging thing about this particular time, there are two challenges. Number one, that the new moon in Virgo, and we're in that lunar cycle. Until we have the new moon solar eclipse in Libra on October 14th, in another 4 or 5 days, we're still governed by the new moon in Virgo, which was ruled and disposited by a stationary Mercury. I would not be surprised that after all these changes and this forward movement and what is ending and this and that and the other, if since September the 14th there hasn't been a sense of just kind of suspension. Which way do I go? Which is the right way? No action is occurring. I think it's this. At this point in time, now that we're in the last week of it, it may be that we're starting to get some answers, but the wheels are still not turning entirely. All the means are not here. All the resources are not here. It's not a clear, the gate is open, we are boarding now, kind of. And as I've maintained in all the videos that I've been doing, going back to the Venus retrograde, we have been waiting for this October 14th new moon solar eclipse, when at least the personal planets are direct, so that we can really feel like, all right, we're going somewhere. Part of the challenge with this going somewhere is, while all these planets are direct and we're going to have this eclipse, we do have Jupiter retrograde. So one of the planets that could really push us forward is now requiring that till December the 31st, there is business with the, if you think about smaller beginnings and the bigger beginning, and the bigger beginning is relevant because all these planets, when they went through Leo, they squared Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus just recently while these retrogrades were happening. When the planets have gone through Virgo, we are dealing with the new moon in Virgo, Mars, the Sun, Mercury, the new moon itself, in conversation with the planets in Taurus. Venus, this is why I'm doing this video. Venus, the last of the personal planets, just entered Virgo yesterday. And Venus is the ruler of this solar eclipse that is coming up. And Venus is going to, while she starts her transit, Venus is going to, on October the 22nd, trine Jupiter, a supportive transit from Virgo to, with no Mercury retrograde to cloud things or Venus retrograde to cloud things. October 22nd trines Jupiter, October 31st trines Uranus. There are a couple of oppositions she also makes, and I'll get to that in the video that I do tomorrow. But the conversations are still happening between these planets that transited Leo, going through Virgo. The last of these planets to transit through Virgo has just started. She's going to trine Jupiter and Uranus. The conversation with the Taurus part of the chart is still very active. We're heading into the eclipse on the 14th in a sign in Libra, which Venus rules. So the support to make this overall change that Jupiter's trying to make, this create the ending and start a 12-13-year cycle, is very much there. It's just that, like all the transits this year, everything has this kind of 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 1 big step forward, 3 steps back, kind of feeling to it. After October 14th, on a more mundane level, we are headed somewhere. But that big destination that we are headed towards, that you have had an instinctive feeling, especially in the Taurus part of your chart, with the eclipses moving from Taurus to Aries, with Jupiter in May, moving from Aries to Taurus, with both these planets that aid us so much in forward movement. If we are aligned, in a sense of alignment, kind of working on the same parts of the chart, consecutively. Jupiter, Aries to Taurus, eclipses which move backwards, Taurus to Aries. You're going to feel after October 14th that we're finally boarding a plane, we're going somewhere. As I said, it's smaller destinations. The bigger destination, when Venus went retrograde, she was not able to conjunct Mars, and that conjunction happens on February 22nd. Jupiter, once he goes direct, December the 31st, conjuncts Uranus, April 23rd. So we're looking towards the bigger change that these Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde, these eclipses, Jupiter's transit are creating. We're really looking towards next year. And somewhere as we get ready to move forward after October 14th, I need you to, my 10 cents or 20 cents or 50 cents or dollar is that you may well find that this idea of forward movement or push or a wave through September 4th, from May to September 4th, and having to adjust your life to accommodate this change that then sees its final push from December 31st to May the 25th of next year, is going to be a very real thing while Jupiter's retrograde. When Jupiter's retrograde, those of us who have Jupiter direct in our birth chart can feel like luck is no longer on our side a little bit, like the grease on a day-to-day basis to help us, serendipity. This comes in when we want it to, and that happens, and we expected to get this at this time, and we expected to get this. Doesn't happen. And Jupiter forces us to kind of use our resources then to make other things happen to support this overall change, with all these trines happening in the Virgo part of the chart that happen in the Virgo, that happen the squares in the Leo part of the chart with the Sun, Mercury, Mars, Venus, and with the trines in Virgo, and Venus being the last planet that's going to make these trines to the sign of Taurus. There's been a direct conversation, support towards developing and creating this new beginning and this authenticity with the Uranus transit in the Taurus part of the chart. So till the end of the year, even though after October the 14th, the gates open and we start to move, and we're no longer in a state of paralysis, we're still likely going to feel that the final destination, we are going to know after October 14th that we're starting to take the stepping stones towards wherever it is that we're headed, whatever this change is that Jupiter is making in the Taurus part of our chart. We will start to see things manifest more clearly in a way that we have not been able to see since July 23rd. Opportunities may have come to us. We don't see them materialize until after October 14th, where we get going, but it's still stepping stones until December 31st. Do not be surprised if you're still feeling like, I know what this push is till September 4th. It's not completely here yet. I instinctively know what's going to be occurring between January 31st and May of next year. But now, right now, between September 4th of this year to December 31st, I've got to, now that I know where it is that we're headed, I've got to take care of stuff so that I can, after December 31st, really start to push towards and facilitate this ending that Jupiter's creating, this new beginning that Jupiter's creating. If you have Jupiter retrograde in your birth chart, the Jupiter retrograde period, these 4 months of the year, can have a very different feeling. It's about a third of the population in terms of the third of the time of the year that Jupiter is retrograde. If you have Jupiter retrograde in your birth chart, you may find that during the 4 odd months that Jupiter is retrograde, you manifest and things come through for you as if Jupiter is direct for other people. So you may feel much luckier, much more in sync. In fact, for Jupiter retrograde period, the 8 months of the year when Jupiter is direct, they often feel like things don't quite click. They're working, they're preparing, they're making mistakes. Certain things happen that teach them important lessons about how to take care of certain things moving forward. And then when Jupiter goes retrograde, opportunities come up again, and bam, 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 bam. All these things that these folks have been working on for 8 months materialize. Waiting on contract, waiting on this, waiting on this, waiting on this. So if you have Jupiter retrograde, you might find that you're in a very manifesty space. If you have Jupiter direct, that's the other 2/3, then, and also for some people, especially if you have Jupiter direct, the ending and the new beginning may have been created between May and September 4th, or it'll be created between December 31st and May 2024. So for some people, it may be that Jupiter within the first few months of being there, first 4 odd months of being in Taurus, may have created the ending and the new beginning. And now there's the adjustment, and then it'll get finished up. For other people, it's more like this idea of there's one wave, then there's what does this mean? And then there's a final push when things happen. As I've mentioned, other transits are also in conversation with these trends. And I think it's really important for me to just give you a sense of and to leave you with this Jupiter retrograde transit right now, because I'm going to be talking in videos over the next couple of months of a lot more forward movement. And so you're going to have to understand the overall context behind this forward movement, because after October 14th, you are going to start moving and the stepping stones will appear and you will start to, but already after September 4th, it wouldn't surprise me that if after September, it's especially to October 14th, it is such a frustrating time because the entire new moon period that we're in is been ruled by a stationary Mercury. So the transactions and the flow has been really slow. We're finally starting to see things head up to the eclipse. We're in that eclipse period since last Friday, Saturday. So we're finally starting to see the door start to open and where we need to go start to open. We're going to move in that direction after the 14th. But you also, it wouldn't surprise me at all, have this sense of, for another week or so, you know, it's likely going to feel a little bit like, we're not getting anywhere. I'm talking about the Jupiter direct birth chart people especially. But then after October 14th, we do start to, but would not surprise me at all if you are conscious of the fact, particularly after September the 4th, you know, if it's been feeling like, wait, I thought we were going here. And now we're not. And indeed, since September the 14th, we're not going anywhere. We've kind of moved backward. Where are we going? Like nothing is happening. Where, what? And then the eclipses and the feeling of being out of control and like the changes are being made by other forces around us. So just know the context of this, because even after things start moving forward, know that the flip side of this, of the other coin, is that you also probably instinctively may have some sort of a sense of a relief and an understanding that now that you know where the changes are headed towards, you at least have till December 31st to sort out a few things. And that's part of what is important to facilitate right now. That's part of what is important to facilitate right now. So that after December 31st, and it'll actually be January because Mercury is going to be retrograde December 31st, but, you know, as you head towards that April Jupiter-Uranus conjunction and all that kind of stuff, February and April, that's when you'll start to see the pieces really come together with changes that have been in the works since May, since June, since July, with, you know, and since the end of July, since Venus retrograde and the new moons and everything that we've had going on, okay? It's important for me to cover Jupiter retrograde. It's important to know that your experience, if you have Jupiter retrograde in the birth chart, might be completely different. And you might be in a period till December 31st when, as you apply yourself, you find you have more serendipity, more alignment than you do for the 8 months when Jupiter is direct for you. If you have Jupiter direct, you know, the blessing of Jupiter retrograde is you get to roll up your sleeves and you're probably going to be creating more, because things are not going to show up when you need them to and when they do, while Jupiter is actually going direct to help you get through things. That element of luck and serendipity is going to be missing till December the 31st if you have Jupiter direct in your birth chart. If you have Jupiter retrograde, it won't. But the larger question awareness to have is to think back to May, but especially June 11th, to September 4th, see what that push was, see if since September 4th, you've been pulled back into whatever it is that you need to deal with through December the 31st, even though after October the 14th, there's going to be more forward movement. And then after the 31st of December, towards May of next year, it's going to be all systems go. Thank you for letting me get this information to you. There's going to be another video tomorrow on Venus entering Virgo. I do need to talk about that. And then the third video will be about the eclipse. If you found this useful, feel free to share, tell your friends about the channel, grow the channel if you feel like, assist in that process if you feel like there's useful information here. Click the subscribe button if you're inclined. And when you do that, there's a bell icon next to it, and there's a wiggly bell on top. If you press that, you'll be notified when I do new videos. And feel free to like, comment, whatever you feel like doing. Until tomorrow. Thank you.